The Vex Empire ruled over 12 star systems with an iron fist. For 300 years, they had crushed every species that dared to resist. Their massive warships, each the size of a small moon, patrolled the galaxy like hungry predators. The Vex believed themselves to be the ultimate warriors. Commander Thek stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the scanner reports. A new species had been discovered in a small solar system on the outer rim. The third planet showed signs of life and primitive technology. The locals called themselves humans. Another weak race to add to our empire, Thek said with a cruel smile. His red eyes gleamed as he studied the data. The humans had only recently developed space travel. Their weapons were laughably simple compared to Vex technology. The Vex had a standard procedure for new worlds. First, they would demand surrender. If the species refused, they would destroy a few cities as a warning. Most races begged for mercy. After seeing Vex power, those who still resisted faced complete destruction. Vex sent a message to Earth. The transmission reached the human homeworld within hours. World leaders gathered in emergency meetings as they decoded the alien language. The message was simple and terrifying. Surrender your world to the Vex Empire or face total annihilation. You have 7 Earth days to decide. The humans were not like other species the Vex had encountered. Instead of panic, there was anger. Instead of fear, there was determination. The Earth Defense Council met in an underground bunker. General Ross, a weathered military veteran, spoke for all humanity. We will not bow to these aliens, he declared. Earth has never surrendered to bullies, and we won't start now. The humans had been preparing for this day since they first looked at the stars. Secret military projects had been developing weapons and ships for decades. The public knew nothing about the Shadow Fleet, hidden in the asteroid belt. Earth's best engineers had studied every piece of alien technology they could find. Meanwhile, Thek received Earth's reply. The human leader's message was brief. Earth does not surrender. Come and take it if you can. Thek laughed at the response. Foolish creatures, he muttered. They have no idea what they face. The Vex commander gathered his strongest battle group. 20 massive warships prepared to jump to the human system. Each vessel carried enough firepower to crack a planet in half. Thek had used this same force to destroy the homeworlds of 6 different species. But Earth was different. As the Vex fleet approached, long-range sensors detected something unexpected. The humans had vanished from their planet. Cities that should have been full of life showed no heat signatures. It was as if the entire population had disappeared. Thek was puzzled, but not concerned. Perhaps they fled to other worlds, he said. It matters little. We will find them and make them pay for their defiance. The Vex fleet entered the solar system and headed toward Earth. Thek planned to bombard the empty planet as an example to any surviving humans. But as his ships moved past the asteroid belt, something triggered his ship's alarms. Commander, his tactical officer reported, we're detecting multiple energy signatures. They appear to be ships. Thek studied the scanner display. Dozens of human vessels were emerging from hiding spots throughout the system. They had been waiting, perfectly concealed among asteroids and behind planets. The humans had planned an ambush. Impossible, Thek said. Their technology is primitive. How did they hide from our sensors? The answer came as the human ships began to move. They were fast, faster than anything the Vex had seen before. And they were armed with weapons. That made Thek's confidence begin to crack. Admiral Cole commanded the Shadow Fleet from his flagship, the Retribution. He had spent his entire career preparing for this moment. Earth's greatest minds had worked together to create ships that could match alien technology. They had succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. All units, this is Admiral Cole, he broadcast. to his fleet. "The enemy has come to our home system thinking we are weak. Today, we show them what humans are capable of. Today, we protect our world and send a message to every alien empire in the galaxy." The human ships moved into attack formation. Each vessel was smaller than a Vex warship, but they were faster and more maneuverable. And they carried a secret weapon that would change the course of the battle. Beck watched the human fleet approach and finally felt the first stirring of doubt. These creatures were not running in panic. They were attacking with the coordination and skill of veteran warriors. For the first time in his long military career, Commander Beck wondered if the Vex Empire had made a terrible mistake. The battle for Earth's survival was about to begin. Asterisk. The silence in space was broken by the roar of human engines. Admiral Cole's fleet moved like a pack of wolves, surrounding the larger Vex ships. The aliens had expected fear and chaos, but they found only cold determination. "Fire at will," Cole ordered. The human ships unleashed their secret weapons. Beams of pure energy lanced through space, striking the Vex vessels with impossible accuracy. But these were not ordinary energy weapons. Earth scientists had discovered something the Vex never expected humans to possess. Beck watched in horror as the human weapons tore through his ship's shields like paper. The energy beams seemed to bend and twist, finding weak points in the Vex armor that should have been impossible to target. His tactical officer's voice shook with panic. "Commander, their weapons are using quantum targeting systems. They're bypassing our defensive matrix entirely." The first Vex ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The massive vessel, which had destroyed entire civilizations, was reduced to burning debris in seconds. Beck could not believe what he was seeing. No primitive species had ever damaged a Vex warship, let alone destroyed one so easily. "All ships, concentrate fire on the human flagship," Beck commanded. "Show these insects the power of the Vex Empire." The alien warships turned their weapons toward the Retribution. Massive plasma cannons charged up, ready to vaporize Cole's ship. But the Admiral was ready for this move. He had studied every battle the Vex had ever fought, learning from the Yaw. Mistakes have destroyed civilizations. "Evasive pattern Delta," Cole ordered calmly. "Deploy countermeasures." The Retribution suddenly split apart. What had appeared to be one ship was actually 12 smaller vessels, perfectly synchronized to look like a single target. The Vex plasma beams struck empty space while the real human ships scattered and regrouped. Captain Blake commanded one of these smaller ships, the Defiance. She had been a test pilot before the war, pushing human technology to its limits. Now she pushed her ship beyond those limits, diving between the massive Vex vessels like a fighter plane weaving through giants. "Blake to all units," she called out. "Target their engine cores. Let's ground these monsters." The human ships moved with a grace that stunned the Vex commanders. They flew in perfect formation, each pilot knowing exactly where their teammates were without needing to communicate. This was not the desperate fighting of a cornered species. This was the coordinated attack of master tacticians. Lieutenant Kane piloted his ship, the Vengeance, directly toward a Vex destroyer. The alien vessel was 10 times larger than his small fighter, but Kane showed no fear. He had trained for this moment his entire life. Earth's pilots were not just skilled. They were fearless. Too close for their big guns, Kane muttered as he flew beneath the enemy ship. His targeting computer locked onto the massive alien engines. "Let's see how you fly without these." Kane's quantum torpedoes struck the Vex ship's power core. The explosion was so powerful that nearby human ships had to shield their sensors. The destroyer broke in half, its burning wreckage tumbling through space. The humans had now destroyed 3 Vex warships without losing a single vessel. Beck was beginning to panic. His superior technology was useless against enemies who seemed To know his every weakness. The humans fought like they had been planning this battle for years, which, unknown to Vec, they had been. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet." Admiral Cole's face appeared on Vec's main screen. The human leader looked calm and confident, nothing like the terrified prey Vec had expected to find. "Commander Vec of the Vex Empire," Cole said, "I am Admiral Cole of the Earth Defense Fleet. You came here expecting to find victims. Instead, you found warriors. This is your only chance to withdraw from our system with what remains of your fleet." Vex snarled at the screen. "You think destroying a few ships makes you equals to the Vex? We have conquered 100 worlds. We will crush you like all the others." Cole's expression did not change. "Very well. You made your choice. All units, execute Protocol 7. Vec had never heard of Protocol 7, but he was about to learn what it meant. The human ships suddenly changed their formation, spreading out in a pattern that seemed random, but was actually carefully calculated. Each vessel moved to a specific position around the Vex fleet. Captain Blake checked her instruments one final time. "All ships report ready, Admiral." "Then let's show them why Earth never surrenders," Cole replied. "Fire the Nova Array." What happened next would be remembered as the moment humanity announced itself to the galaxy as a force that could not be ignored. The human ships formed a perfect circle around the remaining Vex fleet. Each vessel began to glow with a strange blue energy that Vec had never seen before. His science officer studied the readings with growing alarm. "Commander, they're creating some kind of energy field. The power levels are off our charts." Vec watched as the human ships connected their energy beams, forming a web of crackling electricity around his fleet. The Vex were trapped inside a cage of pure power. He had conquered dozens of worlds, but he had never faced anything like this. "What are they doing?" Vec demanded. His question was answered when Admiral Cole's voice echoed across all communication channels. "The Nova Array is humanity's greatest achievement. We studied the energy patterns of dying stars and learned to recreate them on a smaller scale. You wanted to see our power, Commander Vec. Here it is." The energy web began to contract, squeezing the Vex ships together. But this was not just a trap. The quantum field was doing something far more dangerous. It was breaking down the atomic bonds that held the alien vessels together. Captain Blake monitored her ship's contribution to the array. The Defiance was pouring every bit of its reactor output into the weapon system. Around her, 11 other ships were doing the same. The Nova Array required perfect synchronization. One ship out of alignment would cause the entire system to fail. "Steady as she goes," Blake called to her crew. "Hold formation no matter what happens." Inside the energy cage, Vex ships were beginning to fall apart. Vex hulls, which had withstood the weapons of 100 conquered species, started to crack and split. Metal twisted and warped as the quantum field attacked the very structure of matter itself. "Emergency power to shields," Vex shouted. "All ships, break formation and scatter." But there was nowhere to run. The Nova Array covered several thousand kilometers of space. The Vex ships that tried to escape only flew deeper into the energy field. Their engines failed as the quantum distortion interfered with their power systems. Lieutenant Kane watched from his position in the formation as enemy. Ships simply came apart. It was not an explosion or a fire. The vessels just stopped being solid. Pieces of hull drifted away like dust in the wind. "This is incredible," Kane whispered to himself. "We're actually doing it. We're beating the Vex." But the Nova A was taking its toll on the human ships as well. The massive energy output was pushing their reactors to the breaking point. Warning lights flashed on every bridge as systems overheated and power conduits overloaded. "Admiral, reported Captain Blake. "We're running critical on reactor stability. We can maintain the array for maybe 3 more minutes." Cole studied his tactical display. Most of the Vex fleet was already destroyed or crippled. Only Vex flagship and 2 escort vessels remained functional. But those 3 ships were the largest and most heavily armored in the enemy fleet. "Maintain the field," Cole ordered. "We finish this now." Deck realized his situation was hopeless. His mighty battle group, which had never known defeat, was being systematically destroyed by a species the Vex had dismissed as primitive. But he was not ready to surrender. The Vex Empire had never retreated from battle. "Route all remaining power to the main cannon," Deck commanded. "If we're going to die, we take some of them with us." The flagship's primary weapon began to charge. It was a planet-killer cannon designed to crack worlds in half. If that could target one of the human ships maintaining the Nova array, the entire field would collapse. Cole saw the energy buildup on his sensors. They're preparing to fire their main gun. All ships brace for impact. The Vex weapon discharged with the force of a small star. The energy beam struck the human ship Defiance directly. Captain Blake had just enough time to see the flash of light before her vessel was vaporized. The loss of one ship caused the Nova ray to flicker and weaken. Deck felt hope return as he saw the energy field begin to destabilize. Perhaps he could still escape and report this disaster to the Vex High Command. But Admiral Cole was not finished. "This is for Captain Blake," he said grimly. "All remaining ships converge on the flagship. Kane, are you ready for the final strike?" "Lieutenant." Kane's voice crackled over the communication system. "Revenge torpedo armed and ready, sir. The Vengeance will finish what the Defiance started." Cole smiled coldly. "Then let's end this war before it really begins. Fire." What Kane launched was not just a weapon. It was humanity's final message to any alien empire that thought Earth would be easy prey. The torpedo that left Kane's ship looked small compared to the massive Vex flagship. But appearances were deceiving. This was no ordinary missile. Earth scientists had spent years developing the perfect weapon to penetrate alien defenses. Deck watched the approaching projectile with contempt. One tiny missile? These humans are truly desperate now. His weapons officer targeted the torpedo with defensive lasers. Beams of energy lanced out to intercept the human weapon. But the missile seemed to dance through the attacks, changing direction in ways that defied physics. "It's not following a normal flight path," the weapons officer reported with confusion. "The torpedo is phase-shifting through space-time itself." The Revenge torpedo was humanity's masterpiece of quantum engineering. It existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, making it nearly impossible to target. As it approached the Vex flagship, it began to accelerate beyond anything the aliens thought possible. Lieutenant Kane monitored the weapon's progress from his cockpit. "Come on, baby," he whispered. "Blake died for this shot. Make it count." Admiral Cole watched his tactical display as the torpedo closed the distance. Around him, the surviving human ships maintained their formation, ready to support Kane's attack. The battle had cost them dearly, but Earth's defenders had never wavered. "All ships, prepare for secondary strike," Cole ordered. "If the torpedo fails, we finish them with conventional weapons." But the torpedo did not fail. It struck Vex flagship and immediately began its true work. Instead of exploding, the weapon burrowed into the ship's hull like a living thing. Once inside, it released millions of nanobots designed for one purpose: total destruction. The microscopic machines spread throughout the Vex vessel, attacking everything they encountered. They dissolved metal, disrupted electronics, and contaminated life support systems. Within minutes, a mighty flagship began to die from the inside out. Vec felt his ship shuddering around him. Emergency alarms blared as system after system went offline. His crew reported failures faster than they could be counted. The bridge itself began to spark and smoke as the nanobots reached the command center. "Abandon ship," Vec finally shouted. "All hands to the escape pods." But it was too late. The nanobots had already infected the escape systems. Every pod that launched immediately lost power and began to drift helplessly through space. The Vex crew was trapped aboard their dying vessel Kane, watched with satisfaction as the enemy flagship broke apart. Pieces of the massive ship scattered in all directions, each fragment consumed by the relentless nanobots. It was a fitting end for the vessel that had destroyed so many innocent worlds. The two remaining Vex escort ships saw their flagship's destruction and finally understood the truth. They were not fighting a primitive species. They were facing an enemy that had surpassed Vex technology in every way that mattered. "This is Captain Vec of the destroyer Wrath," came a transmission to the human fleet. We surrender. Please do not use that weapon on us." Admiral Cole considered the alien captain's words. These were the first Vex soldiers to ever surrender in battle. It showed how completely humanity had shattered their confidence. "Your surrender is noted," Cole replied. "But first you will send a message to your empire. Tell them exactly what happened here today." Captain Vec's voice shook as he composed the transmission to Vex High Command. He described the human weapons that bypassed their shields, the ships that split apart to avoid destruction, and the terrible Nova array that dissolved matter itself. Most importantly, he told them about the revenge torpedo that could destroy any vessel from the inside out. "The humans are not what we expected," Vec concluded his report. "They are not prey to be conquered. They are predators more dangerous than anything we have ever faced. I recommend immediate withdrawal from all human territories." Cole listened to the alien's message with grim satisfaction. Word of this battle would spread throughout the galaxy. Other alien empires would think twice before threatening Earth. But Cole knew the war was not over. The Vex Empire controlled 12 star systems and commanded thousands of warships. They would not accept this defeat quietly. Earth had won the first battle, but greater challenges lay ahead. "Set course for the outer system," Cole ordered his fleet. "We need to regroup and prepare for their response." Lieutenant Kane flew his ship alongside the flagship. "Sir, what do you think they'll do next?" Cole studied the tactical display showing Vex territory. "They'll do what bullies always do when someone fights back. They'll try to hit us with everything they have." The Admiral paused as he watched the last pieces of Vex flagship drift apart in the void. "But they made one fatal mistake," Cole continued. "They came to our home system first. Now we know exactly where to find theirs." 3 months after the Battle of Earth, the Vex Empire was in chaos. News of their defeat had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Species that had been slaves for centuries began to rebel. The Vex military struggled to maintain control as their reputation for invincibility crumbled. Emperor Zex sat on his throne, reading reports of uprisings throughout his territory. The humans had done more than win a battle. They had destroyed the fear that held his empire together. "Where is the human fleet now?" he demanded from his intelligence officer. "Unknown, my lord. They seemed to have vanished completely after the battle." The Emperor's red eyes burned with rage. "Find them. I want every ship in the Empire searching for these creatures. They must pay for their defiance." But the humans were closer than they Vex realized. Far beyond the edge of their home system, Admiral Cole's expanded fleet waited in the darkness of space. Earth had not been idle during the past 3 months. New ships had been built, weapons upgraded, and crews trained. The Shadow fleet had become an armada, Cole stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the Retribution 2, studying detailed maps of the Vex homeworld. Intelligence gathered from the surrendered alien ships had revealed everything Earth needed to know about their enemy's capital. The planet Vex Prime has a population of 12 billion, reported his tactical officer, Commander Stone. It's defended by orbital defense platforms and a permanent fleet of 500 warships. Cole smiled grimly. 500 ships that have never faced human weapons. They still think in terms of old warfare. Lieutenant Kane, now promoted to captain after his heroic actions, approached the Admiral. Sir, the weapon is ready for deployment. The engineers have confirmed it will work exactly as designed. The weapon Kane referred to was humanity's ultimate achievement, the stellar collapse device. It was based on the same quantum principles as the Nova Array, but scaled up to affect an entire star system. Earth scientists had found a way to trigger a controlled stellar collapse, turning any sun into a weapon of unimaginable power. Remember, Cole addressed his senior officers, we're not here for conquest. We're here to send a message that will end this war before it spreads to other human colonies. The human fleet moved toward Vex Prime like ghosts in the night. Their ships were equipped with advanced stealth technology that made them invisible to alien sensors. The Vex defenders had no idea death was approaching their home world. On Vex Prime, Emperor Zex continued his war council. His generals assured him that Earth's victory had been a fluke. The humans were still a primitive species that had simply been lucky. When we find their home world, General Kex declared, we will reduce it to molten slag. No one defies the Vex Empire and lives. The Emperor nodded in approval. Double our patrols. These humans cannot hide forever. But the humans were not hiding. Admiral Cole's fleet had reached the outer edge of the Vex system and was now moving toward the sun itself. The stellar collapse device required precise positioning to work properly. All ships maintain formation, Cole ordered. Stone, begin the targeting sequence. Commander Stone activated the device that would change galactic history. Deep in the bowels of the flagship, quantum generators began to spin up, creating an energy field that would penetrate to the very core of the Vex sun. On the planet below, Emperor Zex was reviewing invasion plans for Earth when his science advisor burst into the throne room. My lord, our sensors are detecting massive quantum disturbance in the sun. Something is destabilizing the star's core. The Emperor looked confused. That's impossible. No technology can affect a star. His confusion turned to horror as the truth became clear. Admiral Cole's face appeared on every screen across Vex Prime. The human leader spoke with the calm authority of someone who held absolute power over life and death. People of the Vex Empire, Cole began, your leaders chose war when they could have chosen peace. You came to Earth expecting to find victims. Instead, you found your masters. Emperor Zex screamed orders to his fleet, but it was too late. The stellar collapse device had already done its work. The Vex sun began to pulse with unnatural energy as its core destabilized. You have 1 hour before your star goes supernova, Cole continued. Use that time wisely. This is what happens to empires that threaten humanity. As the human fleet disappeared into hyperspace, the Vex sun exploded with the force of 1,000,000 nuclear bombs. In one terrible instant, an empire that had ruled for 3 centuries was erased from existence. The galaxy would never forget the day Earth proved that some species should never be underestimated.